In this segment, you'll learn how to group check as many supply questions onto one SPSS table. Let's look at Q4. Okay, in Q4, respondents had to indicate which restaurants were their favorite restaurants, and they were allowed to check more than one. We coded it and entered the data as 1 if it was their favorite restaurant and 2 if it was not their favorite restaurant. Now, we can run a frequency on this, so let's do that first. So I'm going to go Analyze, Descriptive Stats, Frequencies, and we're going to do all the Q4s. And we can look at statistics. We don't want any of this stuff. Charts, we don't want a chart. And we don't need to look at these too. Let's run it. Now, what you'll see is we get a separate frequency table for each one. So for example, for Chick-fil-A, yes was 45% and no was 55%. For sub-connection, yes was 10%, no was 90%, and so on. If we want to compare the different restaurants to see which ones were more favorite, it's hard when we have to look across all these tables. So I'm going to show you a way to do this and get it all onto one table. Let's first delete all this. And go back to our other window. Now, the first thing we have to do is create a set, and then once we create the set, we can run analyses on it. So we go to Analyze, Multiple Response, Define Variable Sets. Now we want to put all the Q4s in one set. We can highlight it, hold the Shift, and use the arrow keys. And move it over to Variables in Set. Now, SPSS will only allow you to count all the 1s on one table or all the 2s, where 1 means they checked it and 2 means they did not check it. Let's do the 1s because we want to see how they compare across being chosen as favorites. We have to give it a new name. In this case, let's just call it Q4. Okay, and then we add it. And notice it's put a $sign in front. It means we've created a multiple response set. Now we can use this variable to run analyses. To run analyses, again we go Analyze, Multiple Response. Let's run a frequency on it. We've only created one variable that's a multiple response set. We'll move it over. And that's about it. We hit OK. And it will create a table. Here's our usual case processing summary, and here are the frequencies. Notice it's all on one table: favorite Chick-fil-A, favorite sub-connection, favorite Burger King, favorite Schlotzsky's, and so on. This is how many responses there were for each. There's 20 people in the sample, but the total responses is 61 because they're allowed to check as many as apply. This column tells us our percentage of responses. So 14.8% is 9 over 61. This tells us our percentage of respondents. So 9 respondents chose it out of 20 total, or 45%. Okay, 2 out of 20, or 10%. Okay, this column is usually much better in terms of understanding this data. That's because it just makes more sense to know the percentage of respondents than the percentage of responses. And that concludes how to do a multiple response variable. Try it on your own now, please.